Well, good morning. Good afternoon, I must say. Time does fly when things are a little bit out. Well, today is the big day, and we have got, as you can see on the screen, the Honourable Dr. Stephen Miles, who has now become officially the Premier of Queensland. So from Australian Indian Radio, Brisbane Indian Times, and our entire team and many of our community organisations, we'd like to wish him all the very best. And right now we will go and take a look at some of the reports on the lead up.
Other news now, and it is official. Stephen Miles will be sworn in as Queensland's 40th Premier today, after a Labor Party room meeting this morning confirmed him as Anastasia Palaszczuk's replacement. Outgoing Premier Anastasia Palaszczuk did not attend the meeting and hasn't spoken publicly since she shocked the state by resigning on Sunday after she lost the backing of Queensland's powerful unions. And here was Stephen Miles just in the past 10 minutes or so after the party room meeting. He's now on his way to Government House in Paddington to be sworn in by Jeanette Young.
The State Parliamentary Labor Caucus has just met, and they've unanimously passed a resolution thanking Anastasia Palaszczuk for her leadership. Together we reflected on the achievements of the last 9 years for Queenslanders, what Anastasia was able to do leading our team for Queenslanders. They then endorsed me to be the new leader of the State Parliamentary Labor Party and Cameron Dick to be our new deputy leader. We will now go to Government House to ask the Governor to swear us into the roles of Premier of Queensland and Deputy Premier of Queensland. We asked the caucus to provide us with fresh faces, with a new team. And I'm pleased to say there will be 5 new ministers in the first Miles government. That's the most number of new ministers Queensland has seen since we were first elected in 2015. They are younger, they are energetic, they are ready to deliver a fresh approach for Queenslanders. The new ministers are Nikki Boyd, Bart Mellish, Lance McCallum, Michael Healy and Charisse Naumis. Mullen. Sorry. I've known Charisse for too long.
Can we ask, you've been next to Ms Palaszczuk for 3 years, how can you convince Queensland voters that this is a new government, that now you're going to listen to youth crime and fix housing and all those kind of issues?
Well, in part by having a significantly new team. 5 new ministers, the most number of fresh faces in a government since we were elected in 2015. I'll outline more of my approach and my focus at the speech that I intend to make this afternoon, but I think I've already been demonstrating to Queenslanders how I intend to lead. I've spent time in the regions. I've spent time with our first responders on the ground in a cyclone, just after a cyclone. I've spent some time with the police on the ground in Townsville, including the reinforcements that we have sent there to deal with the current crime wave, and I've heard from them what they need to address that crime wave. So that's going to be my approach, listening to Queenslanders and delivering for Queensland.
You've been a public, prominent figure for many years now, and many voters will have made up their mind about you already. What's your message to some voters who may have done that and decided they don't like you?
Well, this is a fresher government with a fresh approach. I've had a number of roles in the government, but, I haven't spent much time talking about myself. I've talked about the issues we were working on and how they affect Queensland and Queenslanders. And so I'll take some time this afternoon to introduce myself and my family to Queenslanders. And then I will demonstrate to them how I intend to lead with what I do more than what I say.
Back now to Brisbane, where Stephen Miles is being sworn in as Queensland Premier. We'll bring our Brisbane Bureau Chief Adam Walters back in. Adam, explain to us what we're seeing right now on the screen.
Well, Stephen Miles is at Government House as the very special guest of Governor Jeanette Young, someone with whom he is very familiar. Janet Young became Governor after being the Chief Health Officer in Queensland. She was the public face of the battle against COVID, giving daily briefings on the impact of the pandemic and the efforts of the Queensland Government to protect Queenslanders. And during that time, Stephen Miles was boosting his own profile, standing alongside the Chief Health Officer to explain how the government was working with the medical authorities to stop the pandemic from spreading long before the border was opened in December 2021. So they've had a close working relationship before, and here they are together at Government House with Janet Young about to swear Stephen Miles in as the 40th Premier of Queensland. That process in its formality appears to be underway now. Let's take a listen.
Made under Section 43 of published in the Gazette on 18 May 2023 at pages 49 and 50. Signed and sealed on 15
And Adam, just while we're watching this on our screens now, of course, Stephen Miles will today be joined by his new deputy, Cameron Dick. Now, this actually will mark the first time since 2005 that the Labor Party will actually have two men at the helm.
Yes, I mean, we've seen Anna Bligh and Anastasia Palaszczuk, both very successful Queensland premiers in their own right. So this does make a mark on that timeline, I guess, in terms of being a little back to the future. It's unusual not to see women in senior positions at the very top of Queensland government, and pointedly, before caucus was convened at 10 o'clock this morning, Stephen Miles and Cameron Dick walked into the room flanked by none other than his one-time rival for the Premier's job, Shannon Fentiman, the Health Minister, and the Education Minister, Grace Grace.
I will now sign your portfolio.
Okay, so it looks like the official proceedings are now underway. Stephen Miles signing that official document, making him Queensland's 40th Premier, an historic day in Queensland. Adam, we are of course expected to hear from Stephen Miles next hour. He will be giving a speech. What do you think he will announce as part of this first official speech as Premier? What will be the agenda?
I think the theme of his premiership is going to be inclusiveness. One of the common criticisms of the Palaszczuk government was the former premier's refusal at times to meet stakeholders who were in dire need of the government's attention, namely, and most controversially, the families of victims of crime. Repeatedly, the Premier did not meet them, and that became a sore point, especially at a time when that issue was gaining more currency in Queensland. We're coming up to the 12-month anniversary of that shocking murder of young Brisbane mother Emma Lovell, stabbed to death in her own home in the northern suburbs on Boxing Day last year after returning from the Sunshine Coast from a family holiday. That was a turning point for the Queensland government and showed Queenslanders just how serious the juvenile justice system problem was. Now, we're going to see from Stephen Miles, we've already heard from him on how it's going to be a fresh approach. The inclusion of 5 new ministers, he says, foreshadows that approach leading up to the election in October next year.
Yeah, okay, and there we go. He's just done the oath as well, Adam. He looks like he's beaming. He's got a big smile on his face. This is a big moment for him in Queensland. We're going to try and listen in now.
Treasurer. And also to be Minister for State Development, Infrastructure, Local Government and Planning.
Premier, I am pleased to appoint Mr. Dick as a Minister.
So there you are, ladies and gentlemen, breaking news right here from the AMX show. And as was mentioned before, there are very, very historic day right here in Queensland's politics. So let's hear from the Leader of Opposition.
We talked about that ad with Adam today, but also thinking about Anna Bligh and Campbell Newman. They know how brutal Queenslanders can be when they are not happy with them. So as I know you spoke to my colleague Pete Stefanovic earlier in the week, and it seems like from those I'm talking to within the LNPs, Stephen Miles is a gift to you.
No, far from it, and we remain the underdogs, and history shows that for a couple of reasons. One is, of the last 12 general elections in Queensland, the Labor Party have won 11. Now, that's a mountain of history, and we need to win 14 seats. That's historic proportions, and I keep on saying, the next election, we remain the underdog. There is a weight of history against us. What we do have on our side is we are as unified and as focused and as hungry as I've ever seen. And in contrast, the government's been consumed by itself. And I want Queenslanders to know that there is a better way. We do have the right priorities for Queensland's future. We've been listening, we've been developing those policies, and what they've got in the last fortnight has been the culmination of an attempt, a successful one, to blow a Premier out of office. And it's a government that is beholden to the union movement now, to a handful of power brokers whose name will never appear on a ballot paper.
If this Labor government is as bad as you say they are, and you're still saying you're the underdog, what does it say about you?
The weight of history is against us, and 14 seats is no mean feat. And I want people to understand that we have to earn their right to govern. And the Labor Party has always expected that in this state. But we have pointed out the issues, but also the solutions to them. And Adam just articulated some of those problems. But we do have a youth crime crisis, and anyone who can't say that is kidding themselves. We have a housing crisis where working people are living out of their car. We have the worst ambulance ramping and surgery wait times, and we do have a health crisis. And overlaying all of that is a cost of living crisis that is a direct culmination of failures in those areas. Now, we've put forward solutions to every one of those, and I want Queenslanders to know we are serious about providing a better way for them, and we do have the right priorities for their future.
What's the solution to cost of living?
It starts by guaranteeing to keep those power plants on. We have power plants that have been mothballed for the last 2 years and should be running. You have to drive down insurance costs, and the best way to do that is to make sure that youth crime doesn't run out of control, and you build infrastructure to stop things like flooding.
Do you really have control over that?
Absolutely you do.
There's a federal Labor government in power.
Oh, no, absolutely. If you look at the big levers and the big bills around a kitchen table, rent is a direct correlation with housing supply. That's a responsibility of the state government. Your power bills, that's a direct correlation. We own those assets and we should be driving down those costs. You look at health insurance premiums, a lot of people are having to take out private health because of Queensland health crisis. Those issues rest solely at the feet of the state government, and I'm determined to do something about it. It really does. And of course there are federal factors across all of things, including energy policy. But when you've got assets that are owned by the people of Queensland and they were committed to come back online many months ago and they haven't, that's a failure. And I'm committing to make sure we have a maintenance guarantee to keep them on. When it comes to the health crisis, within 100 days people are going to see what is happening in their hospitals in real time. Doctors and nurses are going to be back in charge. When it comes to the youth crime crisis, the Youth Justice Act is going to be rewritten. We are going to remove detention as a last resort, and we're going to get serious about early intervention. There are things that are going to happen immediately, and we are determined for Queenslanders to know there is a better way than the chaos and crisis they're getting at the moment.
You've known Stephen Miles for quite some time. Is there anything nice you can say about him this morning?
Of course. I never play politics in a way that I make it personal. And one of the first things I said when Anastasia steps aside is I wanted to have some special time with the family. I think that's the least you could offer somebody after 9 years. I don't have a personal vendetta against Stephen Miles at all. What I have is a vision for Queensland to be run well. And I want Queenslanders to know that we are determined to bring them that grown-up government that they deserve, a government focused on them.
In the back of your mind, are you wary about what a new leader and a new cabinet can do? You can often feel like a new government. So 9 years of Anastasia Palaszczuk, Queenslanders might feel like this is a fresh start.
Sure. It'll be a formidable challenge. I will make this observation though. I look at all of the people who've sat around that same table for the last 9 years. They've all had a crack at being health minister. They all signed away watering down the laws. They've all led to the undersupply of housing. It's the same people. All that's happened is they've all moved up one in the batting order. Now, I'm going to be prosecuting that, and very hard. The difference is, at the moment, is you have the most controlled body of people who owe their existence to the union movement. Now, previously the unions had an interest. They are now the sole shareholder in the entity called Queensland
There's
Labor.
factions on both sides, right? You're beholden to people within the LNP, surely.
Yeah, members of the LNP and Queenslanders. That's why I love our political movement. We don't owe our existence to big business. We don't owe our existence to the trade union movement. We don't owe our existence to anyone other than the people who are members of our political entity, who are the ones who choose the candidates. You don't have to belong to a faction. You don't have to sign up.
There's no factions in the Liberal Party.
You do.
LNP, come on.
We don't have a single faction in the Queensland LNP where people sign up and say, well, this
Not formalised, but there's factions. Come on, David.
I have never seen our political entity as focused and as unified to serve. I've never, and I've been involved in the party for a long time.
There's no disagreements? There's no contest of ideas?
Always, and that's healthy.
Just checking.
Always, and that is as healthy as it gets, and that's the joy of having a party where people can think freely. You don't owe your existence to an entity. You don't owe your existence to a alignment, to a group of people. That's the way democratic parties should work.
I look forward to testing that theory with you over the next 18 months. David, thank you for joining us here on this glorious Brisbane morning.
I'll come back anytime, and it'll always be without a jacket outside in this humidity.
Thanks, David. I appreciate it. We'll see you soon.
So there you are, ladies and gentlemen, and he said it's always be without a jacket there. Well, so that's been that very, very special news for today. Right now, as we are leading into the weekend, let's take a look at some of the functions and events that would be taking place right here. ladies and gentlemen, that's about all we have time for you in this segment today. It's been wonderful having your company. This was breaking news, and that is why we did not have the show right in the morning. And I just hope that you've enjoyed that very historic moment in Queensland's history. The 40th Premier of Queensland who has been just sworn in. So until Monday, it's goodbye from us. We'll see you then. And congratulations to the incoming Premier.